Michael Robinson. I'm the President and CEO of New York Staffing Services and Microbin. I'm also the treasurer of an organization called the NMBC, the National Minority Business Council. So today I'm going to be talking to you about interviewing tips, how to present yourself in a job interview. I'm going to be very bold and say to you that an interview begins the moment you walk in the door of any organization. Not the moment you meet with an interviewer, but the moment you walk in the door. You walk in the door, you go to the receptionist or the security guard. You want to be nice to everybody. You want to make sure you present yourself in the best possible light throughout your entire time in that organization. And oftentimes when somebody comes in the door, sometimes you may be rushing from the subway, you may not be in the best frame of mind. You can probably come across with a bit of an edge. So be careful with that. It's very important. Because if you're likable from the beginning, chances are that likability will carry throughout the entire interviewing process. So what I'm going to be talking about today mainly is the interviewing process and how to make sure that you get the biggest bang for your buck when you get into that room with the interviewer. Okay? So everybody knows about the resume, getting your resume together, making sure you have a very sharp, clean resume, not folded on good quality bond paper. Right? You want to make sure that there are no spelling errors, no grammatical errors. Those are very important things because a comma in the wrong place is the wrong message. You are selling yourself. The way you dress, the way you speak, how you answer questions. These are all very important things that you have to prepare for before time of your interview. So what I say to you a lot of times is, or people who come into my office, is spend some time in front of the mirror and just see how you come across. You want to be sure that you're not coming across in a very hostile manner, because people sometimes, when they're nervous, they can have that look like, I'm not very happy, I'm not very pleased. You know what I'm talking about. So be very careful with the way you present yourself. And there are some techniques that I'm going to teach you today that are going to be very important in handling this whole dynamic of the interviewing process. One of the most difficult things for people who go on job interviewing have to deal with is stage fright. That is the moment where your nerves are all shattered and you're discombobulated and you're totally out of whack. Somebody asks you a question and nothing comes out of your mouth. You know what I'm talking about? Or your palms become sweaty or your knees are shaking. That's stage fright. So what you have to learn to do is to manage yourself when you're going in on an interview. The first thing that I tell people is to prepare yourself mentally. All right? One of the key things that an interviewer looks for when hiring somebody is the likability factor. You want to be likable. And what I mean by likable is this. We all have nerves. I mean, no matter how professional you are, no matter how many times you've interviewed, no matter how many times you've gone on stage, you've got nerves that sometimes get the better of you. When you become situated with an interviewer, you want to be sure that, number one, you greet the person with a pleasant smile and a firm handshake. Very important. You take a couple of deep breaths before that process. When you're sitting in the waiting room and you're waiting to meet that person, and you've got all that time on your hands, take a couple of deep breaths and just slowly breathe out and just relax your body and your mind and just put yourself in a place of positive thinking. Because the moment you start thinking, gee, I'm not going to get this job, another job again, this is my fourth interview for this week. Once you start letting those thoughts get into your mind, they become the catalyst to your downfall. You're not aware of it, but they become part of your interviewing process subconsciously during the interview. So you want to think positive thoughts like, wow, I'm just grateful to be here today. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be able to interview with this company, meet this absolutely wonderful manager. So what I tell people is to leave your baggage at home. Literally and figuratively, because first of all, you don't want to be walking in with a Macy's shopping bag and an H&M bag and all of that. You want to make sure that you just have your one pocketbook or briefcase with your resume, and you want to make sure you leave all of your negative emotional baggage outside the door. Nobody wants to hear your sad story. I'm sorry to say it, but it's the truth. If I came here crying to you about my misery, you would not be pleased, would you? Well, think about the hiring manager as being exactly the same position. He or she is there to interview you for a period of time, maybe half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, And he or she wants to evaluate whether or not, number one, you're likable, number two, you have the skill sets they're looking for, and number three, you're going to complement their work environment, and number four, you're a good investment for their organization. And those four things are quickly being evaluated by the questions he or she asks you. So an open-ended question would be, tell me about yourself. And tell me about yourself is a wonderful opportunity for you to sell yourself. But how do you expand further upon that? How do you show that you're a good team player? How do you show that you have good work ethics? How do you show that you are punctual, that you're loyal, that you're looking for a home to build a career in? This is a good opportunity for you to work that into that open-ended question. The pyramid starts with the open-ended question, tell me about yourself, or tell me what you've done for the past 5 years. And then it becomes more specific, like, do you have good Excel skills, or do you know Word, or do you know Excel? These are more specific questions, but still they're an opportunity for you to sell yourself. Never answer anything with one word. How do you take a question and turn it to your advantage so that, number one, you're selling yourself beyond what the question is asking, but also putting yourself in a favorable light? You have to be able to stamp your own personality on that interview without being personal. So if I was to tell me about yourself, what would you say to me?
Go get a team player. I like to listen to music.
When someone asks you an open-ended question like this is a chance for you to be able to sell yourself and become likable. And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but the reason for doing it is to show you that something as broad as that, is a chance for you to be able to say, oh my gosh, now I can talk about the fact that I'm a great typist, that I type 67 words a minute, that I know Word and Excel, that I'm able to plan my boss's calendar, that I'm able to be a team player, that I've worked for 10 years with one organization. But the only reason why I'm sitting in front of you today is because that company downsized and I'm not able to find employment. However, I'm looking for an opportunity to get back into a company and build a home, build a career with that organization. Yes.
Well, that's like the 30-second commercial, your personal 30-second commercial.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, you have to be ready at all times to be on. One of the things that companies want more than anything these days is the workforce that understands the value of a dollar. And saving money doesn't mean that you have to save them $1 million or $2 million. It could be something simple as turning off the lights when you leave a room, or being able to order paper from a cheaper supplier. Do you know what I mean? Or being able to recycle paper. And being able to talk about these things intelligently is really what makes you different from someone else who gets stuck on a question like that.
I'm a former client and I work for Boundless Closet now.
Yes.
One question that tends to baffle people a lot is individuals who have been incarcerated and answering questions in regards to what happened. What would you suggest? How should they limit or maybe maximize the answer to that?
My suggestion is to be honest at all times to everybody about what you've done before, about your past, because sooner or later it's going to come up. Okay? So by all means, being honest is important.
Did you ever have problems getting along with someone in particular?
Question about conflict in personalities and how you deal with it. It's also good to be able to say conflict is part of the daily life of any job, and one of the things that I've done personally is that I've learned to be able to work with this individual, because at the end of the day, the team is what matters.
Yes.
Once you give that team approach to something.
That threw me when they
It's a very good question, because conflict exists everywhere.
Some people don't research the company that they're going to be interviewed by.
Right.
Because they'll ask, oh, have you heard about us? Do you know anything about us? What have you?
Very good. One of the key things that you have to do when going in for an interview is to prepare yourself. And part of the preparation process is researching the company. It's like having a nice resume together. If you know you're going to meet with somebody at the Bank of New York Mellon, make sure that you know about the Bank of New York Mellon, their history, what they're about, what products they sell. Whether you're going in as a clerk or an administrative assistant, it's good to know exactly who you're going to be interviewing with. I think sometimes it can become a little bit disempowering when you go on an interview and things don't go well. You take that negative energy to another interview, whether it's a week later or a day later. So you need to be able to learn that was that. This is a new opportunity. I'm going to be positive about this. this I'm going to land, I'm going to think positively and put all of my skills and attributes to use for me.
You can grow,
Absolutely.
but you got to start somewhere.
That's my
You
point.
can't just go in and say, boom.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for asking the question.